think about what your relationship is with time and how to bring more value to time within your own life, within your team's life, and within your company's life. And your life will be so much better. Remember, quality over quantity. Being busy is no way to live. The demands of leadership requires wisdom, thoughtfulness, strategic thinking. So carve out spaces to do that kind of deep work. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Reflect Forward. I'm your host, Kerry Siggins, and I'm so glad you're here today. Today, I want to talk about why leaders need to protect their time. We all need to protect our time, whether we're a leader or not. I mean, let's face it, we're all busy. In fact, I am working hard to not respond with, oh, I'm so busy, whenever I'm asked how I am, because let's face it, we all are busy, and no one really wants to hear how busy we are. I try to be much more thoughtful in my response rather than, oh, so busy. But the reality is that leaders are busy and we really do need time to think, time to strategize. Leadership is a high pressure job. And if we're constantly sprinting, then we never can recover. And any of you who are athletes or like to work out know that you can work out harder when you recover. And leadership is the same way, thinking is the same way, managing is the same way, working is the same way. As the saying goes, time is money. And what does that mean? Well, that time is opportunity. And when we are bombarded with emails and meetings and constant interruptions, how do we protect that most precious asset, that asset that allows us to grow, to rest and recover, to think, to create those new opportunities that are high value instead of putting out all of those little fires that don't actually move the needle? So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And I've been thinking about this a lot because I have overscheduled myself. I find this funny because people ask me how I manage my time so well. And I do have a capability to handle a lot of different things, especially when I'm really happy with the things that I'm doing in my life. But I once again have found myself overscheduled. I've overcommitted because I love saying yes to things and I always want to participate and make an impact. But when my calendar is so full that I dread waking up on a Monday morning, that's not good. So I have been figuring out ways to reduce my commitments and give myself more time to be present and to think and to not just be so dang busy all the time. The interesting thing is that there's this paradox of availability. Like by our nature, we have to be the guiding light for our teams. We have to help them. And there's this idea that the more accessible that you are, the less available you become for things that actually matter. And I absolutely know this to be true. I think a lot of people did. When prior to COVID, when I was in the office all the time and my door was always open, people could come in and it was great to have that accessibility. And I learned so much and I was very in tune to the organization. But I would leave at the end of the day and say, wow, I had a lot of great conversations, but what did I do to move the needle forward? Did I think about strategy? Did I talk to our most important customers? And the answer was no. And so when we went to work from home and I didn't have those interruptions, I got so much more done. And you can start to see where that paradox lives, where that accessibility, where people want to talk to you, which is a very good thing as a leader, has to be balanced with being able to focus on things that move the needle. And the more accessible you are, the less available you are to work on those things. And interestingly, a study by McKinsey revealed that senior executives spend more than 28% of their working hours reading and answering emails. That's nearly a third of their work week. And that means that they're not strategizing, innovating, leading, but they're wading through their inboxes. And I know this to be true. And I used to be so meticulous about responding to emails. And I've had to let that go a little bit because answering emails is not the most important thing that I do as a leader. Leading is the most important thing I do as a leader. And that's where this paradox of availability really is. We have to balance that. There's also this myth of multitasking that we need to take into consideration. Like multitasking is absolutely written into every single job description. I think we all think that we need to multitask. And in fact, many of us think that we are good multitaskers. But neuroscience absolutely debunks this myth, especially for leaders. Research indicates that task switching, when you go in between different things, can actually reduce your net productivity by up to 40%. For those of us leaders whose decisions are carrying a lot of weight and impact the entire organization, this cost of a diminished focus is not just lost in hours, but in opportunities that we miss to work on moving the ball down the field, or it might result in crappy work product or errors that are made. As it turns out, our brains don't like juggling. They don't like keeping multiple balls in the air. Our brains are much better at doing one thing at a time and doing it well. So don't get caught into this idea that you need to multitask and that multitasking is a good thing. Do what you're working on really well. Focus on it, be present with it, do it really well, and then move on to the next thing. Don't try to do multiple things at once. That does not help you manage your time well at all. The next thing I'd like to talk about is how important deep work is. I love Cal Newport's concept of deep work, which is the ability to focus without distraction on cognitively demanding tasks. This is a really important thing for leaders to do. Deep work is where strategy is born. It's where innovation happens. It's where solutions to complex problems are found. And if we are cluttering our brains with multitasking, or we don't have time to do that deep work, to do that deep thinking, we are not going to have the brain power to focus on solving the most important challenges in our teams and businesses. So it's really important that you are the architect of your time and that you carve out time for uninterrupted thought and creativity. Before I jump into strategies on time protection, I do want to talk about one other thing, and that is the ripple effect of leadership focus. We leaders, we set the tempo and the tone for our organizations. If we are buried in administrative tasks and endless meetings, it sends a signal that this is what valued work looks like. Be busy with meetings, be busy answering emails and other administrative work. But on the contrary, if a leader prioritizes strategic thinking, team development, and high impact projects, this inspires their teams to emulate the same things. So it's really important that you role model this because it has that ripple effect. What you do as a leader is what other people will do too. So remember, being a role model matters, and your leadership focus has a ripple effect throughout the entire organization. So make sure that you're modeling how to use time effectively. Okay, so let's jump into some strategies for protecting your time. The first thing that you need to do is audit your time. I know this is a pain in the butt, but it is really insightful. Keep a log of your activity all week long, how you are spending your time. Write it down. You will be surprised where those hours go. By doing this, you can identify where you have these time drains, so to speak, and you can strategize on how to either eliminate them or delegate them, or at the very least, reduce them. The next thing that you should consider doing is time blocking. I do this. I block all my mornings off from 8 to 9. That's when I do my best thinking. Unfortunately, I have let those time blocks get filled, but I am going to work to put them back in. But having specific blocks of times matters. So you should set a time for answering emails. You should say, I do meetings on these days between this times, and then block off on your calendar that time for deep work. And then you need to guard those blocks fiercely. You have to be disciplined to follow how you're time blocking your calendar. Otherwise, it won't matter. And I am guilty of letting my calendar get completely out of control because I've taken too much on and my time blocks have been completely obliterated. And that is why I'm having this conversation with all of you, because I am taking control of my calendar again. And I am going to fix this going forward. March is a mess and April is too. But starting in May, I am being much more disciplined because I'm backing out of some of these commitments that I've made. And I'm really focusing on making sure I have time to work on the most important things that help my team and company. The next thing is to learn to say no. Remember, no is a complete sentence. And every yes that you say is a new commitment. So saying no is potentially more important than saying yes. You need to evaluate opportunities through the lens of your strategic priorities. What do you want to achieve in your company, in your team, in your career, in your life? And if you have things on your calendar that aren't helping you get to those things, then figure out how to remove them from your calendar. It's okay to say no. In fact, saying no is the most important thing that you will do in your leadership career. Say no. No is a complete sentence. The next thing is to leverage technology. There's all kinds of tools out there that you can use to eliminate repetitive tasks. AI is going to change the game with this. Manage your schedule effectively with technology. I use Outlook to manage my calendar, and I use Asana to manage my daily tasks, and it's incredibly helpful. I also have my assistant who helps me on both of these areas too, and it makes it so much easier to be able to collaborate through technology on my calendar. So leverage technology to help you be more efficient. And then finally, this is the most important, is that you have to cultivate a culture that respects time. Encourage your team to adopt similar practices. Encourage them to not fill up every moment of their day. Make it knowing that you value deep thinking, deep work, that you value strategic input, that you want people to not just be busy. That is not what is effective. So, really think about what your culture says about time. And if it says busyness is the most important thing, then start to work to change that. No, deep thinking, quality work, and time to rest and recuperate so that you can work harder is far more important. So, hopefully, that inspires you to manage your time, to protect your time. There's always going to be more work to do than hours in a day. So, it's really important that you ensure that your time is spent working on things that really matter, on things that move that ball down the field. Lead by example, audit your calendar, say no, use technology, time block, and really think about what your relationship is with time and how to bring more value to time within your own life, within your team's life, and within your company's life. And your life will be so much better. Remember, quality over quantity. Being busy is no way to live. The demands of leadership requires wisdom, thoughtfulness, strategic thinking. So carve out spaces to do that kind of deep work. All right. With that, I will leave you for your day. I hope that helped. If you like this podcast, please write a review, subscribe to it. And as a reminder, if you like this podcast, please write a review, subscribe to it, share it with a friend. I always appreciate it. It helps with the algorithms. And be sure to check out my book, The Ownership Mindset. It has all kinds of useful information, just like what's in these Advice from a CEO podcasts. All right. Have a great day. See you next week.